The Northwest and Southwest Reconstruction Plan continues today with Paul Tassong and Donatus Njong making some progress in the sensitization campaign in the crisis hit zone. Details in this edition of the news. Cameroonians continue to question the electrical capacity and supply of NAO based on the unsynergical bills that have been received in the past few weeks. The managing director speaking to Spectrum Television tells us what they have been done to remedy this situation. More avenues are created to enhance the basic educational sector as the Minister of Education, Laurent Serge Tundingwa, in a joint effort with FECOM, are drafting out strategies for the reconstruction and construction of more schools. Those are our top stories. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for watching the 6 p.m. newscast on Spectrum Television. I am Josephine Bindzi. 3 bills have been adopted by the National Assembly and have been sent to Senate for scrutiny. They seek to authorize the president to ratify certain products in Cameroon. The consecration and preservation of wildlife was an embodiment of this proposal. A rapid response is expected in the days ahead. On to one of our top stories. The National Coordinator of the Presidential Plan and Reconstruction of the Northwest and Southwest regions has called on people in the Northwest region to have hope in the head of state's plan. Paul Tassong assured stakeholders as he began his sensitization awareness in Bamenda. More with you, Peter Nsosi.
Meeting with stakeholders of the Northwest region, the National Coordinator of the Presidential Plan to reconstruct and develop the Northwest and Southwest regions revealed that the Marshall Plan will kick off in peaceful areas and spread to unstable areas with time. This, Paul Tassong explains, is to keep the workers as well as facilities safe from attacks of separatist fighters. The initiative, seen as a source of hope for the battered regions, has the following aims, which have been spelled out by the National Coordinator.
To outline the process and mechanism for implementing the Presidential Plan for the reconstruction and development of the Northwest and Southwest regions. To define the methods of organization of the various beneficiaries of the plan, in particular the village cultural and development associations. To develop a security map of the intervention areas.
On his part, the city mayor of Bamenda, Paul Achobang Tambeng, regretted that the separatist conflict has not only destroyed the economic fabric of the Northwest region, but has brought hardship to the population and made unity to be far-fetched.
A sword of hatred seems to have severed the bonds that held us together as one strong region.
He has also urged the reconstruction and development team to resolve the plight of private teachers in the region who have been badly affected by school shutdowns. The consultation that began in Bamenda continues in other areas of the Northwest and later the Southwest region.
The rapid increase and amelioration in technology has had adverse effect on internet users in Cameroon. More crimes via technology has kept more internet users insecure. According to an IT engineer, the increase in cyber criminality could be a downturn in the economy and negligence on the side of internet users. Catherine Kone with details.
Hacking into official social media accounts of institutions and individuals in Cameroon seems to be gaining ground in recent days, despite legal instruments that makes the act criminal. The latest victim of such hack is Election Cameroon. The rise in this phenomenon has been blamed on the downturn in the economy.
Well, I believe, like all criminal action, criminals always prepare and try to ensure that they have the knowledge to actually commit the crime in the first place. Like in the real world, you have criminals who attack buildings, and in the case of cyber criminality, is people actually attacking clients or personal people or individuals, let's say companies, organizations, even governments using the internet space. So that persistence may be as a result of the downturn in the economy or even things like people getting more and more versed with the technologies.
He says accounts easily get hacked due to individuals' personal information being used as password.
Well, I believe that computer engineers are quite versed. The issue is usually linked to sometimes clients who probably want to use passwords or accounts which are related to common things like their personal details, like maybe date of birth, places of birth. The cyber criminals would always want to start by, first of all, checking these kinds of things. So the best way is probably not to use passwords which are related to personal things like maybe dates of birth, your names, maybe even your places of origin, your mother's name, and things like that. Usually these things link to this attack.
He added that such a situation can be curbed with the use of authentic software.
I think that generally some of the ways to curb these kinds of problems of cyber attack is to ensure that, one, clients try to make sure they use authentic software, because sometimes you see people using cracked software. Definitely, you need to use authentic software. Even if it's Microsoft, Linux-based systems, it's best to use authentic software. Then you use maybe antiviruses. You ensure that all the time your machine is brought up to date with the latest patches, because those patches also sometimes come with security updates to ensure that clients do not have these kinds of vulnerability.
Cyber crimes come in the form of fraudulent, electronic emails, identity theft, cyber harassment, spamming, hacking, thus making internet extortion in Cameroon a threat to the lives of Cameroonians, their economy and reputation.
Overcharged electricity bills to consumers by NAO, experienced recently by many consumers, has triggered the managing director of the Electricity Sector Regulatory Agency to address a correspondence to the managing director of NAO to correct this issue. Crystal Asexwele with more on this.
Suspension of the operation of estimating the indices of electrical energy matters was the object of a mail by the Managing Director of Electricity Sector Regulatory Agency (ASEL) to the Managing Director of NAO, following a series of inquiries from consumers by the regulatory agency in the months of May and June. It was observed that the operation of estimating the indices of electrical matters has been suspended by NAO agents since the outbreak of the coronavirus health crisis in the country. Some consumers approached this day on the streets, expressed some of their experiences.
Je suis très surpris par ce qui se passe maintenant.
I am indeed surprised with the manner in which the electricity consumption billing is carried out
Franchement, je me suis pas retrouvé par rapport à cette facture.
Recently, I received a bill and did
Au niveau de
not
ma
recognize
consommation,
it
je
to
suis
be my
passé du simple au
consumption.
double. Je suis passé de près de 220 kW
From simple
par
to
mois
double,
à
from
près de
200
450
kilowatts
kW.
to over 400 kilowatts.
Je me suis rapproché
When I
de
tried
NAO,
to inquire at the
mais j'ai
NAO
été très
agency,
surpris qu'on
I
refuse de
was not
m'accueillir.
received
On
due
m'a
to the
maintenu
COVID-19
à l'extérieur
restrictions.
de l'établissement sous prétexte qu'il y avait le corona. J'ai eu donc la présence d'esprit de saisir un des
I,
agents
however, approached an NAO
et de lui
agent
présenter
who
ma facturation.
confirmed after
Je suis allé
looking
là avec
at
près
the
de 6
bill
factures.
I presented to him
Et
that
le
there
gars
was a problem
regardait.
of overbilling.
Et il m'a dit que certainement il doit avoir un problème de surfacturation.
Electricity consumers are complaining of the overcharging of electricity consumption billing by NAO. Their agents are not doing their job, reason why consumers most often receive bills which don't conform with their electricity consumption.
In the face of the COVID-19 health crisis, NAO took some precautionary and safety measures to preserve the health of its consumers and staff by limiting the visits of its index collector agents on the field. A measure quite understanding for the managing director of ASEL, who however proposes that the consumers should be the one to transmit to NAO their indices or choose a suitable method while waiting for a decision to be met. NAO has to proceed in the collection of indices in order to correct the overcharged bills served to consumers.
To this brief, the Minister of Basic Education, Laurent Serge Tundingwa, together with the Minister of Decentralization and FECOM, have come in a synergy, drafted a reconstitution for the construction of schools in the basic sectors. This also will create a platform to compensate brilliant children in the basic education. FECOM has donated over 1,000 benches and built more than 200 primary schools. This accord is meant to spread the initiative to all crisis-hit zones. The coordinator of the United Nations systems in Cameroon has praised Cameroon's decentralized approach in curbing the COVID-19 pandemic. Allegra Bauchi made this statement at the end of his stay here in Cameroon. Peter Nsosier looks at the contribution of the UN to Cameroon's COVID-19 response.
The United Nations has been multiplying accompanying strategies with the government of Cameroon to curb the spread of COVID-19 in the country, which has so far recorded more than 12,000 cases.
Sure, the United Nations system and all the partners for health will mount also their response and support the government to address the need for responding to this outbreak.
Alongside government, the UN has developed a country prevention and response plan along 8 pillars. Top on the agenda: country-level coordination, risk communication, surveillance, case investigation, as well as operational support and logistics. The body is also integrating COVID-19 in ongoing humanitarian response operations in the far north, east, northwest and southwest regions rocked by conflict. Sensitizing the population on the risk of the pandemic is also another tool, as well as the distribution of COVID-19 kits.
The important is really to continue our activities, stay alert. If anyone has a question regarding the outbreak, you can call 1510, so 1510, to get additional information. If you need, you can visit the WHO website also, which can give you more information.
Coordination, capacity building, risk communication and engagement, as well as analysis, are other intervention zones of the United Nations in Cameroon.
Dealers in second-grade goods popularly consumed here in the economic capital, Douala, say the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic has badly affected their businesses. While demand has dropped drastically, believing in a business stability is far from being a reality, as Catherine Kone tells us.
An economic onslaught is staring at the face of these traders dealing with second-hand goods in the city of Douala. The usual booming that characterized a business environment like this one seems to be dead. The dreaded coronavirus, the traders say, is having a huge ravaging effect on their businesses.
Difficulties we are facing now I can say, is too much. Because at first, which we usually have the goods coming in, we are not having many difficulties in selling to the producer. But now, well, first of all, the first thing we are facing is the price differentiation. It has reduced. As at first, it was at least having a good amount, but yes, selling price now, but it has reduced.
The traders have braced for fresh challenges in purchasing new goods.
Second thing we are facing, our goods are no more coming in. And again, the way to have the means to bring the goods is not there. So what we do now is just we go around, look for things that they have used and they are spoiled, then we take them back, fix them in our own ways. That's how to make our own business, to maintain our own business. If not, we would collapse.
Sales have dropped as customers stop coming.
There are no more customers. We try to at least do the online business or to sensitize and give them that there are still products. But since there are no more customers, we have reduced the way we used to. Their income rate has reduced. And the way we used to have that's population around our cities, it has reduced.
Some highly demand goods by customers, they say, cannot be imported because borders are still closed.
Coming in now, you have the fridges, you have cars, you have flask, you have many things that are not more coming in. You have gas plates, you have even the pillows, mattresses, they are no more coming in. And those are the most things that people need in our community.
Since the outbreak of COVID-19 in Cameroon, business persons review they keep counting their losses instead of sales each day.
Many Cameroonians seem to call the obligatory wearing of face masks a habit that has come never to return. Some say face masks have prevented them from cold and runny nose, which characterizes the season. It seems like a blessing in disguise. So many seem to term the preventive measures put in place by government in combating the COVID-19 pandemic. Washing of hands, wearing of face masks, and social distancing has preserved Cameroonians from common ailments like cold, runny stomach, giving the coming of the rainy season. I could easily pick up some diseases by inhaling dust, which could cause cough. I can't prevent the picking up of other diseases, either from one person coming to buy or around me. The primordial advantage of face mask is that it prevents us from inhaling dirt, which causes fever. I've observed that since I made it a habit to wear face masks, I've not had fever. Traders equally compel their clients to wear before their sales points.
When they come without the face mask, my advice is that anybody issue or woman should board is on yes.
Some say these measures may have come never to return. Even after this pandemic is over, I will continue wearing my face mask. It protects my health. If Cameroonians could stick to the regular washing of hands, covering of nostrils, we could be protected from many diseases. I've not had any form of fever. I had difficulty in wearing it from the beginning, but right now it's a habit. I can't go a step or two without wearing it. The lungs are constantly exposed to dust we breathe, but have their defense mechanisms that protect them by removing dust particles from the respiratory systems. Though these preventive measures have been enacted by governments as barriers to the COVID-19, its vantage points are unavoidable.
At this demonstration in Richmond, Virginia, protesters demanded that certain monuments be taken down. Monuments that pay tribute to men who backed the American Confederacy and the protection of slavery.
The fact that it's been over almost 200 years since the end of slavery, and we're still dealing with racism, we're still dealing with police brutality, we're still dealing with unequal treatment. And these Confederate monuments are symbols to the past, and it's symbols to a made-up past, because the monuments are basically the physical representation of the myth of the Old South.
Between 1880 and 1890 is when many Confederate monuments began to be erected in the U.S. South, says Professor Sarah Beetham.
Almost every southern county has a Confederate monument on the courthouse lawn. When you think about the history of lynching, that's the place where often a victim is kidnapped from, or where a sham trial takes place before a terrible event occurs to that person. And so these monuments become really indelibly linked with that. And it's really hard not to see them as anything other than these really state-sponsored signs of white supremacy.
In Washington, D.C., cheering demonstrators jumped up and down as some of them used group force to topple this 3.5-meter statue of Confederate General Albert Pike as local police stood nearby. On Sunday in Raleigh, North Carolina, people cheered as authorities finished the job started by protesters Friday and removed a Confederate statue from its pedestal. In Decatur, Georgia, activists celebrated as the stone obelisk they say is a nod to white supremacy was ordered removed by a judge.
It's a people's victory. All of our young people from Decatur High School, they made this happen. All of these organizers, everybody came together.
At a rally in Oklahoma over the weekend, U.S. President Donald Trump spoke about activists who had pulled down statues of Confederate soldiers and defaced monuments.
The unhinged left-wing mob is trying to vandalize our history. desecrate our monuments, our beautiful monuments.
Last Thursday, Republican Senator Roy Blunt of Missouri blocked the Senate from passing a bill proposed by Senate Democrats Cory Booker and Charles Schumer to remove Confederate statues from the U.S. Capitol.
The continued presence of these statues in the halls is an affront to African Americans and the ideals of our nation.
But Blunt objected, noting that Congress had an agreement with states and that he wanted time to consider giving the issue a hearing in the Rules Committee, which he chairs.
I think that today's action would violate our agreements with the states.
About a dozen figures in the U.S. Capitol's National Statuary Hall collection honor men who gave their allegiance to the Confederate States of America during the American Civil War in the 1860s. Mariama Diallo, VOA News.